So now you can go.
Hey there, all you Cinepickers, and thank you so much for tuning in. This is Michaela and Kevin coming at you with a new Cinepick for this week. So, Kevin, this week you chose a Cinepick for me to watch. What was
Yeah.
your Cinepick?
Alright, so my Cine-Pick for you was the 2010 Finnish film called Rare Exports: A Christmas Carol. No, A Christmas Story. Yes, there we go.
No,
It's
no,
no, it's not called A
no,
Christmas Story. A
no.
Christmas Tale. Is it A Christmas
Yeah,
Tale? Ah, okay. Sorry, I don't even know
damn.
my own. I don't even know my own movie. Okay, so that was my Civic for you. Rare Exports: A Christmas
No.
Tale. That was me.
It's
Okay.
only fair though because the last time I was like the Black King,
Right now,
The Dragon, the King, the Black Dragon, Black Tiger, and you were like, no,
no, no, no.
no,
Now
no.
I know how you feel. All right.
We traded places.
Yeah. Okay. So, anyways, Michaela, I after watching the after watching Rare Exports: A Christmas Tale, what do you think?
Okay, so this movie is hard to summarize after the series of twists and turns that happened in the second and third act
Mm-hmm.
of this film. But basically, it's about a child in Finland
Mm-hmm.
that becomes a Christmas conspiracy theorist after he comes to believe that a company. Hang on, I need to think.
Right. Because
Okay,
I think
okay.
they are specifically looking for Santa Claus. That's that's what the operation
Who's
is.
looking for, yeah,
Yeah.
for the Yulabuki specifically. Okay, okay. Okay,
Okay.
so if I could describe this movie, it is about a small child and his father living together in Finland in kind of the wild, very rural Finland area. I don't think it's specified exactly where they live, but it's by this very famous mountain
Mm-hmm.
that is I don't know about the origins of the mountain itself,
Mm-hmm.
but it is said that the Finnish version of Santa Claus is basically buried in this mountain that he was frozen in time, basically. And so it's about a kid who lives near this mountain who is a Christmas conspiracy theorist. He becomes a Christmas conspiracy theorist when he becomes convinced that a construction company is trying to unearth the the burial grave of Santa Claus.
Yeah. I think it's pretty good.
I
So
think that's the simplest
yeah.
explanation I have because it just gets crazier
Mm-hmm.
from there.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
what I love about it is he is 100% correct. He comes up with this crazy theory. It turns out 100% correct. And in the end of the movie, he is the expert everybody's relying on to like
yeah.
fix this problem.
I love that he like 100% without a doubt believes in his Christmas conspiracy theory
Mhm.
the entire movie, like
Yeah,
unwaveringly.
you're right.
Like unwaveringly just believes in it.
Hmm.
And all of the characters are like, dude, like what is your issue? Until the very end where they're all just forced to just accept it because crazy things are happening, like absolutely absurd stuff is just happening. But after a while, I think it gets so absurd that the characters forget that it's absurd and they just start going with stuff without questioning it. And I think
Hmm.
that's where the comedy aspect of this comes in. Not
Yeah.
that they're trying to be funny. Like there's no one off, because I think it's like a difference. I think it's a difference in humor,
Hmm.
which is like, I have to bring up Marvel movies specifically for this because I feel like Marvel movies do this thing nowadays where they have this very specific brand of humor, and it's the same kind of humor where like the characters will do really uncharacteristic things,
Hmm.
but it's not like all of them. It's just like maybe one of them where they'll like do an uncharacteristic thing in a very serious moment,
Yeah.
and like they'll have a one-off line, and that's how it's supposed to be funny because it's uncharacteristic.
Yeah.
But this is the exact opposite of that, but it works really well where like all of the characters are doing stuff that I think that you can kind of believe that they would do this in this absurd situation. The situation itself is just so absurd. Like
Yeah.
there's a moment in the film where they find like basically like it's a whole murder mystery thriller where they're trying to figure out who killed all of this reindeer that they need for food. And so the dad sets a trap. He sets like a trap and he traps a feral man in this trap. And I think during the second, it's about like I'd say the second half of the movie, like the second by the second act, all of a sudden, and I wrote right here, it goes from like cute, kind of like endearing Christmas thriller to Saw really fast, where all of a sudden it's like, there's this man. Is he dead? Oh, he's not dead? Well, let's just chain him up and take him for ransom,
Right.
um, and make him a hostage. But like, there's a point in the movie where like there's more than just like two people that know about this body. Now it's the boy that knows about this man, and then there's another dad that knows about the man,
Mhm.
and they're all trying to figure out what to do. And so they tie him up and they they put him in chains and they like hook him, and he's just like hanging there. And sitting, they're just sitting there, just like
Right.
eating dinner, and just watching him. Like nobody's phased. They're just sitting there like, yeah, yeah. What do you think we should do? What should we do with the Santa? You know, like maybe we should just hold him hostage
Right.
because we're low on money. Like let's just do that. Like it's just like the way it's just played off like no
Hmm.
not
Yeah.
nonchalantly.
So
Like
yeah. I mean, I think so. One thing I think we need to talk about is kind of who are the people, because that was one thing I think you might have skipped in your synopsis, but it was the dad and his friends. Uh, those are basically the main characters in the whole movie. So, and basically they are trappers, and it seems like they specialize in trapping reindeer. That's where they make all their money for the rest of the year, is by trapping reindeer. And they go to trap the reindeer, uh, they're expecting a herd of reindeer to come towards them so they can trap them, but they never come, and so they go to check what's going on, and all the reindeer are dead. And what they believe happened was the people who are digging in the mountain, who are digging for Santa Claus, they were setting up a bunch of dynamite and explosives to try to like get into the
like
mountain. And
serve the
yeah,
wolves.
so they suspect that activity scared the wolves off the mountain and into the where the reindeer would be walking through, and the wolves killed them all.
Yeah.
And so that's why. So they're really angry because the reindeer never came. They could not trap the reindeer because they're all dead. They don't know how they're going to survive for the next year. That was their income for the whole year, was right there with those reindeer. Now they're like, well, you know, we want, obviously this company wants this guy. We're going to sell him. That's his, basically. They're going to try to figure out some sort of deal so they could get the money
Yeah.
that
And
they
it,
that
it
they
wasn't
lost.
originally a kidnap scheme. Like
Hmm.
I think that they played that off. That's the one thing I do give the movie credit for that because the characters get a little bit bumbling after
Hmm.
a while when they go to like their weird hostage scheme. But I
Hmm.
think that that's actually a weirdly normal response because it's probably not what they were anticipating on doing.
Yeah.
But since everybody was like, "Hey, well, we're not making any money, so we like kind of don't have a choice. Like we might as well we have to like take advantage of the situation because they originally go up there to reparations company that is mining and bombing up there in the mountain.
Hmm.
Uh, and they just want some kind of like reparations for that deal because they're angry about it.
Yeah.
They don't intend on kidnapping anybody and holding them for ransom.
Right.
It just like weirdly happens.
Mhm.
So like I don't know. I was expecting it to get hit with a very heavy-handed like environmentalism and like
Yeah.
this is why you shouldn't go undisturbed because they were like this is a sacred burial ground. I'm like, "Oh, I know where this is going.
Mhm.
It's a sacred burial ground, guys. It's a
Yeah.
sacred burial ground. Nothing good comes out of it." But then it did. But yeah, they don't hit you in the face too hard. Like it gets a little more it's a little more subtle of a message, but
You
because they
got a
want to focus
message?
more on the monster. Yeah,
I didn't.
I got the environmental message
I didn't
of like
get. I feel like it might have been going that direction, and then it completely swerved and like derailed.
like
From
I
there.
got the message in
It's.
the beginning. I think that was the message, but that might also be because like I recently watched a video with my uncle
Mhm.
on like how wolves were introduced to Yosemite to
Yeah.
control like the deer populations because the elk and the moose and the deer were like overgrazing
Mhm.
in Yosemite and causing the plants to die. So they had to introduce wolves into the natural habitat to kill off some of the elk, which in
Mm.
turn saved the biome and the ecosystem of the area. So like this reminded me exactly of that, where like when you upset the forces of nature
Mhm.
by doing something that is not natural to that area, it then upsets the wildlife around it, which is why you then have the wolves going down, and then the wolves eat the reindeer, and then
Mhm.
nobody has enough because you're upsetting the circle of life or
Yeah.
whatever. So like that's the early message I was getting from that. So I was like,
Mhm. Yeah.
interesting we're addressing this theme in a holiday movie. But
Right.
then it just goes kook
Yeah.
bananas from
Well,
there.
because it turns out that it's not the wolves, anyways. There are no wolves in this movie at all, and so it turns out that's not even an issue. So that I think
Mhm.
is kind of a red herring. It's supposed to like tells you, oh, you're thinking this way. Oh no, it's this way. Ah, it's
Right?
crazy.
Also, can't they just I couldn't understand like the state of decay with some of the dead reindeer, but I was
Mhm.
like, it's a lot of dead reindeer. Can't you just like use the carcasses anyway?
Yeah. Well, I don't know what they use the reindeer for exactly. Like, what is the purpose of the reindeer? If they are like butchering them, or if they're actually selling them as
I
reindeer
think they're death
for whatever
butchering
purpose.
them.
Yeah. I
I
don't.
mean, right?
Well.
Because that's the dad's whole business. Like he walks around in a butcher's apron like
Mhm.
half of
Right.
the movie, and they have an electric fence,
Mhm.
to keep the reindeer in for what I assume is probably a mass genocide of all of the reindeer inside the giant electrical crate.
Well,
Uh,
I mean, I don't think you're gonna kill them with the electric fence though. That's just to keep them in. Because electric fences don't kill. It's not. It shouldn't. At least it shouldn't be enough to kill. But
okay.
yeah, so I don't think they're going to kill him that way. That's. I don't think so. I don't know. That's how you
I
kill
don't
chick.
want to
That's
know
that.
how
I
they
mean, I
die.
know. I know for a fact that's how you kill chickens. But with larger animals, I don't think you can reliably kill them with electricity. Yeah. You need something. More gruesome tactics in order. From what I know, I don't know. From watching documentaries and Okja. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Ugh. The way that produce is formed
Right.
is an uncomfortable thing for me to think about.
Hmm.
I don't like thinking about it. Oh, I did write something down, and I messaged you about this earlier, but I was thinking about the tone of this film, and I was like, tonally, is this more horror or is this more comedy? And
Hmm.
it's like this weird mixture where it is definitely a straight up horror,
Yeah.
but because of the way it is filmed and like because of this weird nostalgia tone that's like that is with the movie and the way that like all of the characters just are, this movie specifically reminded me of Parasite director Jong Boon Ho.
Hmm.
Um, in the fact that it's the fact that the tone of the film just switches rapidly,
Hmm.
unexpectedly, and then introduces a crazy absurd situation where all of a sudden this Santa, he's not Santa, he's just one of Santa's elves.
Yeah.
He's one of many Santas. And not only are you taking this man hostage, but now all of the Santa elves, the helpers, are coming from the forest to protect. Now we find out that it's not just one feral Santa. There's 198 feral Santas, and they're all trying to resurrect their god in the
Yeah.
mountain by
Yeah.
by stealing everybody's heat appliances to thaw their
Right.
Krampus in the mountains, which is not a Krampus in Finnish culture. It is the Julupuki,
Mm.
the
Right.
Julupuki, and he has horns like the Yule goat. But the Julupuki, I don't think actually has horns itself. I think they just combine the Yule goat and the Julupuki
Mm.
together, and that's kind of just what you got. But like it's such an absurd like, and it all just goes like 360.
Hmm.
It's like one of those TikToks that's like where they sing and then it just gets higher by key. Okay, we can just delete that. I don't know where the
I
metaphor was going.
know.
But it's just like one reveal and then another reveal and then another reveal. And now the characters have zero time to process all of it. So they just have to go from one thing to another until all the adults are just like confused and they're bumbling. And the kid's just standing there like, I knew this was coming.
Yeah.
He's like, I've been conspiracy theorying about this for the past 24 days. He
Mhm.
has come to take me. He has come to spank all of us and boil us alive. And the adults are like, what is happening right now? And I am like, what is happening
Right.
right now? But instead of stop and take stock of it to like explain through a whole bunch of like exposition.
Mhm.
There is no exposition
You're right.
given. You just have like all of a sudden they're in it.
Hmm.
And they're just like, okay, well the
Yeah.
kid clearly has a better understanding of this absurd freaking situation because all of a sudden it turns out Santa Claus is real. Like what?
Hmm.
And he's
Yeah.
very nice and he's evil. So now they're like,
And
okay, the kid knows more.
yeah.
Also,
And
I
so.
love that the kid just knows. I like that the kid has a plan.
Hmm.
Like he's just walking around, he's just like, shoots the gun. I have a plan.
Yeah. I. I. What I. So one thing that's really interesting about this movie and what I love about it is the absurdity. It never stops. Like it. It's when the movie starts. Everything seems as familiar as it can. Like I'm not really familiar with Finnish culture or even like it's definitely a specific type of culture that everybody in this movie is associated with that like I'm not really familiar with, but it seems really grounded in reality for the most part. Uh, but as the movie goes on, it starts like stripping further away from reality until like even the characters' actions are completely absurd. Like when they find out what's going on, they find this warehouse and it's got the frozen Santa in it and it's got all the heating elements and all of the children from the town in potato sacks. Like the normal person would be, let's get these kids out of these potato sacks, let's go and get them out,
Let's
get them
go.
out,
We have
right?
to go
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
But instead what they're like, this is our perfect opportunity to trap all of the evil elves. So don't take the kids out of the potato sacks, leave them in there and load them
So
up
leave them
into
as
this.
bait.
Yeah, load them up onto the helicopter and so we could take them out and you know and use them as bait so we could track all of the evil elves. That was their that like. And even like
Oh
the
yeah.
father, the one of the father, like he found his son was in the not the son, but it was the son's friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Hated that
he
kid.
found
I
his son
hated him.
in
I wanted
in
him
the
to die
potato sack,
first.
right? And so he even like while he's still in the potato sack, like he doesn't even take him out fully. Like he's still like in the potato sack, and he loads them up with all the other children who are still like tied up in the sacks. They don't even know what's going on, and
They
they're
don't
just like
know. That's what
right. They
everything's
don't
saying.
even know
Like,
that they're flying 100
right?
feet above the ground. Yeah, as they're flying in the helicopter, like it's So
Also,
absurd.
since when can the top reindeer herder fly helicopters? All of a sudden he's leaving the hangar is what it's called, like in
Hmm.
Finnish. Because I was like, he keeps talking about this hangar. What
Yeah.
is that? That's like Finnish for like warehouse
Yeah.
or like Finnish for like a building or something like that. So he leaves the hangar and he just gets into the helicopter that doesn't have anybody in it, by the way,
Hmm.
because the elves killed the rich person that was like funding the bombing of the mines.
Right.
Like, because he dies with a gratuitous axe to the head, which
Hmm.
happens in a quick cut. But like all of a sudden he's climbing in this helicopter, he can just fly it.
Hmm.
And he can just
Yeah, it's
fly
like
it.
I
Like
guess that's a thing, you know.
everyone starts questioning it, and you're just like, okay, well, I guess this is happening. Like this crazy thing is just happening, and you just kind of have to like roll with it. But I think that's the fun of it. It's
Yeah.
that it's just nonstop. Like the last half hour of the film, my jaw was hanging open because I was just like,
Yeah. But
I was like, I can't believe, I was in disbelief. I was like, I can't believe this is happening right now in
hmm
this film. And I'm
yeah.
expected to take it seriously. But it went on for half an hour, and I was like, I can't
And
believe
the
this is.
absurdity never lets up all the way to the very end, because then they decide, they're going to enslave all of these elves and and train them to be Santas and then ship them all over the world in like wooden crates. Like, they're gonna ship them off like animals. I was like,
I there's so much it's not they don't explain it either, which is another
yeah.
thing. Not explain like they go 360. They have like this weird title card that shows the days going by until
Hmm.
Christmas, but it's like 365 days until Christmas. They're washing off all these naked people. You think that they would at least bother to like try to communicate with the
Hmm.
nonverbal naked elves?
Nope.
Like figure out like where did you come from, like what is what is happening, like
Hmm.
what are we going to do with you, where would we be sending you, how can we send you back, like or what are we going to do about the fact that you guys don't like talk, like you don't talk and that you're feral, but instead they have this whole roundup of 198 naked people. And what do you decide to do with them? You enslave them into
Right.
into a capitalistic into a new business venture. Turn that where you train them to be mall Santas, and this is all within the last 5 minutes of the film, which is like it's
Yeah.
another way in a montage where like they're training them, and like the dad and the kid are finally getting along, like
Hmm.
finally, and like they're demonstrating like this is how you hold a present, this is how you hold a child, and all of the Santas are holding little dummies, like pretending to rock babies and
Hmm.
stuff. And then when they're finally ready, the asshole kid and the asshole dad that speaks English like come by and they place a Santa hat on one of the,
Hmm.
the naked guys' heads, and then they dress him up as Santa and they ship him off to Zanzibar. Just like
Yeah.
I can't believe. But I'm glad. I am surprised, which kind of defeats the environmentalism part, I
Hmm.
think, of that story because they partnered with the company that was doing the mining.
Hmm.
Like there's an insignia at the very end, so you know that to cover up the fact that all of the people in their employment died because of Santa, they now they partner with the Sub-Zero company
Hmm.
to make a profitable business of Santas. But also like what happens when you run out of the what happens when all 198 Santas are trained? Do they live normal lives? How do they feed 198? I have so many questions and none of
Yeah.
them are answered.
Well, yeah, that was
None
it.
of them
I
are answered.
was, yeah, because I was trying to figure that's something, because you know that they don't have money, because their previous income with all the reindeer is debt. They don't have the income for the rest of the year, and so how do they get this thing going? Because it's a lot of work. It's a full year of work to train all these Santa Clauses before the next Christmas. So that's probably why they partnered with the other company. If this movie were grounded in any sort of reality at all. But
I
by
know.
the end of the movie, I think you just kind of stop caring about that.
yeah, like reality just starts slipping further and further away. It's exactly like, to me, the closest comparison, and I told friends this too. I said it is like oh my God, a Jung Boon Ho movie,
Hmm.
basically, where it starts very grounded in reality, and then it just slips further and further away out of your grasp, and then before you know it, you cannot control where it is going, and you just have to sit there with your mouth open, like,
Right.
this is ha this is a thing that is happening.
Hmm.
Um, oh my God, I also love that they have this millionaire guy that is like the top company head for Sub-Zero, who in a way is almost like the older version of the kid
Right.
who's a
Yeah.
Christmas conspiracy theorist. He's like the kid grown up
Hmm.
into like a 60-some-year-old like it's gone too far now. And he's like, we are standing on the sacred burial ground of Santa. But they also don't explicitly state that it is Santa off the beginning, which is, I
Right.
think that's like a clever misdirect because it
Hmm.
kind of starts out like it's like a mystery. It's like, what's in the cave
Yeah.
that they're looking for? Who is like, why there's so many questions. Why are the reindeer dead?
Hmm.
Where are the wolves? Who was on the rooftop with human footsteps?
Hmm.
Then it's then it goes, where are all the heated appliances in everybody's homes that went missing
Right.
yesterday? Where are the children? Also, I love that none of the adults, I love that this is such like a small town dynamic that none of the adults notice that their kids are actually missing. They're
Hmm.
like, oh, the kid's just probably out playing or whatever.
Yeah.
Probably be back by nightfall. And they're not, of course.
Hmm.
But it makes you wonder, because none of the adults are suspecting that their kids have been taken, do they know, like, do they ever find out that their kids have been taken? Like,
Yeah.
the
You
teachers
never
are gonna
see
go back, they're
that.
gonna be like,
Yeah. You never get that kind of reaction from the parents. And you only see one parent whose kid went missing, and even he doesn't have like a strong reaction to that specifically, right? Like because they like his kid went missing, and then he immediately goes with the other guy to like see the elf, to see the old man that they captured. But
yeah,
like they have no idea that this old man is related to this other event, to his kid going missing at all. So it's like so he just leaves his house even though his kid is missing to go talk to some old man that he doesn't know anything about. They
yeah.
assume because at that point they assumed that he was American, and he goes along because he can speak English, and that was which is yeah, and that's the
I don't
interesting
know what
thing.
they're planning
So
on doing with him.
yeah, and so that's an interesting thing that I think that's a tail sign that this movie was not marketed for an international audience, or it wasn't built, or it wasn't filmed for an international audience because all of the cast was Scandinavian. Like all even the people who were supposed to be Americans were like Norwegian or Finnish or whatever. They're all from the Scandinavian countries,
Yeah.
and you can tell when you listen to their voice, you're like, no, that's not American. You know,
Oh
you can
yeah.
tell right away. But in the movie, they're playing Americans. And so that's kind of how you tell it. This is a low budget movie. It's a local movie. It wasn't filmed with an international audience in mind. I don't think. And, otherwise they would have casted or at least gotten somebody with an American
Like
accent
native
or
English
something.
speakers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so, but I don't know. I think it's pretty good anyway. It's one
I
of those movies. I'm glad it was made because I thoroughly
I
enjoyed it.
it's so bonkers. I
Yeah,
wrote down I wrote down like I said I don't understand Finnish culture and that's on me.
yeah,
They have this because there's a lot of things in there, and that's how you know that it's local because there's some references in there to aspects of Finnish culture in
hmm,
reference to like times of Advent and like the holiday season that I think only that culture like would do specifically, and even just like the method in which the characters live, it almost feels like a story, like a culture within a culture, right?
Right.
Because like we're both from the US. I've never been to Finland and I'm not familiar with Finnish culture, but I'm also not familiar with the back roads of Finland either.
Right.
Where these people seem to live, and like everybody owns guns and the kid has a gun.
Hmm.
They just hand him a gun. They drive on snowmobiles regularly. There's this weird thing with a calendar, though. Um, Toward the beginning of the film, it's very clearly like an advent calendar with
Yeah.
like these new doors, and you like open the little paper
Hmm.
doors counting up to Christmas. But I've never seen that before. I've never
Yeah.
seen a calendar.
Really? You
It's
never?
no,
Because
I've never seen it.
I've seen Christmas calendars like that before. I I guess Christmas is the only holiday you really count down to. Like I don't know if any kid is really that excited about any other holiday. Maybe Halloween, but like when it comes to Christmas, like counting down to Christmas is like so exciting. Like I've never had a calendar like that. I've seen them, but just I've made there's like little crafts or whatever that you can do to like count down. Make like a ring, like paper chain or whatever, and
Yeah.
you can make like 25 chains and you like break
Oh
one off
yeah, then
every
you break
day.
one every day.
And
Okay,
to
I've done
count
that.
down to
Yeah.
Christmas. Counting down to Christmas is always like that's something that I've always done as a kid, and so like I totally get it, and I've seen those calendars before. I can't remember where I've seen it, but like that's so it
Okay.
yeah. So but I love how like their doors and that he's actually terrified of just even opening up the last door just because and he goes to lengths to tape it shut and then eventually starts stapling it shut, like stapling his calendar shut. He does not want to open that last door to Christmas.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie you find that like the warehouse, the giant warehouse door, is the same door that's on his calendar. And it was like I mean, it's pure coincidence, but it's so cool. Like, it's such a
Oh
cool
yeah.
thing in the movie
I
to
love that
see.
they tied that back in.
Yeah,
Love that they
it's
tied
like
it back
it's
in.
the last door. Cause yeah,
Because I wasn't sure if that was like a Finnish culture thing or if that was a thing that spans through multiple different cultures and I
mhm,
just haven't seen it. But I was like, I don't understand the whole thing with the calendar. I was like, is that a Finnish thing? Uh Yes. Also the fact, like I was trying to like distinguish, I'm like, what is typical in this culture versus what is typical in this world that we're not supposed to find unusual? Like the kid, like he ran outside at the beginning of like his film, literally in his underwear
all right, yeah,
in several feet of snow. And I was like, okay, is this like norm? Am I supposed to find this humorous because is it normal or is this normal
hmm,
for like this world that I'm in and I'm just supposed to accept it. So I was just kind of like unsure. I was like, am I allowed to laugh here?
right.
I don't
I
know.
Yeah, I don't know if that one if that's actually for comedic, but yeah, it is an interesting thing to do. You know, to like
Hmm.
run outside in your underpants, but you know,
He's a
it's
kid.
yeah.
He's like 10-ish. I mean that
Hmm.
makes that's definitely something
Yeah.
I would have done as a kid, just running around in my shorts with
Hmm.
no shoes and just
Right.
walking outside with no shoes just all the time. And then
Hmm.
I get yelled at for going in the garage with that stuff. They're like, you're gonna step on a nail. I'm like, I don't care, 'cause I'm
Right.
free.
Yeah.
I'm freaking the wind. Oh, I want to mention too, I think the acting in this is really great.
Hmm. Yeah.
Especially when it gets really bonkers. Like the acting is just, it's wonderful. I like that they didn't harp a lot on the fact that the mother had passed away, what I
Hmm.
assume is fairly recently, because there's an entire like dinner scene, like a Christmas Eve dinner scene, where they're making gingerbreads, and the kid is like, "Oh, this gingerbread tastes just like mom used to make it." And then the dad gets kind of teared up, and then he gets teared up, and then he's just like, "Okay, defense mechanism, go to bed, kid." And the
Right.
kid's like, "Happy Christmas," and the dad's like,
Right.
But like I like that they don't harp on it because I am curious. I'm like, when did the mom die? How
Mm-hmm.
old was she? When how did she die? Like,
Yeah.
there's so many questions, but that's not the main point of the story. It's just to give you context
Mm-hmm.
as to why their relationship is a little kind of weird
Yeah.
and why it's kind of strained. And I like that literally just in that one few minute scene, I feel like we got everything we needed to know
Mm-hmm.
just from the
Yeah.
way that they interacted with each other. And I was like, I specifically wrote down the scene. I was like, that dinner scene tells you everything about when the mom died
Mm-hmm.
and how she died, sadly and far too soon.
Right.
So, which is basically all that you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I did write down, I said, OMG, this went from Christmas thriller to Saw really fast. They tied him up and now they're all watching him. OMG, now this is a hostage situation. OMG, now there are demon elves. This awful CGI. There's
Yeah.
some really bad CGI in the helicopter.
Mm-hmm.
The overhead
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
There are also like weird scenes where the kid, when he's having like his ideas about Christmas, the they film it in a way where it seems as if time stops and the frame goes really slow and like, slow motion and like there's a close up on the kid's face. That happens multiple times
Mm-hmm.
where like they slow the they slow the video down and it's like he's moving in slow motion or something. And I'm like, why did you put this in here? And why is it in here so many times? Um, I don't know if that was
I,
intentional.
yeah. I don't. I didn't notice. I have to look back again. Now I watch it again. Oh well. But it.
Yeah, it's always in the last half an hour during the action scenes
Mm-hmm.
where like they try to put more emotional weight to the kids, like coming into his own
Mm-hmm.
and like being the one who has the grandmaster plan. But instead of just having him do it, they have several moments where they like try to make you get on board with him, even though we're already on board, so they don't really need to do it. But
Mm-hmm.
like there's like these weird moments where it's like this emotional swelling music, and like the camera will just go all slow, and the kid will be like,
Yeah.
and then it'll go back to normal. It's like it's like a slow motion scene in Rocky. It's
Right.
guy up the tiger and a dog really slow. This is supposed to be iconic, but it's not now because they're overusing it. So
Right.
it's yeah, it's just it's so silly. I mean, what kind of humor would you say this movie is even?
I feel like a lot of it is kind of just like awkward humor, you know, because they don't really like tell any jokes. Nobody's got any like one-liners. There's no like
Mm,
witty. There's nothing really witty about it. It's just like awkward. Like it's situational humor. It's awkward and like absurd. Like kind of just the absurdity. You know,
yeah.
it's yeah. I don't know. It's because I don't know. It's pretty funny,
I
but
kind
it's not.
of like it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't really consider this movie a comedy. You know, like it is funny and it's entertaining in that way, but I don't think it was intended to be a comedy, and it doesn't really feel like a comedy. And I'm glad that there are comedic elements, you know, to kind of lighten the mood, because this movie could be super dark. It has the potential to be very dark, and but it's not. You know, it because
Yeah.
especially like I've seen movies like not not with like the same theme, but like similar type of tone that
Hmm.
it's not funny. It doesn't have any comedic anything like elements or anything like that, and you just feel like crap after you watch it. It's just like it's a real emotional drain, and
Yeah.
and so I'm glad that this movie was able to find like that middle ground, so it you know after you watch
Yeah.
it you don't feel terrible.
Right.
You
This
know?
movie could have been The Revenant.
Yeah.
Like, it could have easily just turned into The Revenant, where like
Mhm.
everyone is struggling and running from multiple monsters, but
Mhm.
it didn't go that route, and I appreciated it. And also, the runtime was really short. It was
Yeah.
only like an hour and a half, maybe at
Mm-hmm.
most. Like really just an hour and 17 minutes is the total, not counting the credits.
Yeah.
So, but it felt like forever. Like it felt like a full-length feature film because I think they got in everything that they needed to fit
Yeah.
in, and it went so fast.
Mm-hmm.
I almost want sequels because I'm
Right.
just like, you threw in that wrench of a last scene where all of a sudden you're training them to become Santas.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's what the original short films were supposed to be.
Yeah.
I think it was just
So
like the
yeah.
more training stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you think this movie would address the process of that and
Mm-hmm.
how that, you
Yeah.
know,
Well, and also I wonder what are the Santas used for any other time of the year? You know, like do you just pack them up and and they're expensive too. Like they're selling them for $85,000 a piece. You know, you're not gonna buy a Santa for just use it once a year. So like, what do you use it for the rest of the year? You know,
yeah,
and that
that's very true.
I guess it's kind of funny
Do
that
they
we're
come back
we're talking
home?
about them as instead of like actual people because that's how they're treated in the movie.
But I also love that we're talking about them now as if they are real,
Yeah.
which is exactly what the film wants us to do.
Right?
It's
Because I mean, it
kind
kind
of
of it makes you wonder. It also like, do they talk? Because they never show them talking. But if you've
yeah,
ever like went to a mall Santa, the mall Santa talks, right? Like that's
yeah.
they have to ask
He
you what
doesn't
you
look
want for
good.
Christmas. You
Yeah,
you don't. It's not just like a photo op. You don't just sit on the Santa's lap and take a picture and leave. Like you got to talk to the guy.
yeah. And like, is it a thing? Like, okay, so they destroyed the original Santa Claus, but
Hmm.
there are just all these elf Santas.
Yeah.
So why do we need to dress them up as Santas? You could teach them a new language. You could employ them as temps to
Right.
work all over the world.
You,
Why Santa specifically? Is it because you destroyed the original Santa, who was evil, by the way? Is it
hmm.
because we destroyed the original Santa and now they're like, okay, well, the one source of all magical things is now gone, so we have to fulfill it with other magical things. But like, it makes you wonder. It's like all of these
Yeah.
people
Like they could do
had to have
anything.
come from some kind of they have to come from like some kind of collective source, and there's got to be more of them. There's got to be more than just 198.
Yeah.
So just, like there's just so many. I have so many questions,
Right.
and then like also why is Santa dead? Also, is there a good Santa? Is there a bad Santa? Because
Hmm.
obviously that was the bad one. It was
Yeah.
frozen in the mountain for years. That Santa was frozen in the mountain. Was the Santa technically like still alive but frozen, but was
Hmm.
still giving orders to the elves to carry out their
Yeah.
business
I
for
think
him?
that one I think was yes. That was the before like the one of the miners before he died or got killed. Like he was like talking on his phone and he was saying like it still has a pulse. Like it's too dangerous. We have to pull out. We can't continue because it's still alive. And then
Hmm.
that's when he gets killed by an elf. I'm like, ah. But that was yeah. So he's still alive. That's why they had to blow him up, and that's why when they did blow him up, all of the elves became tame because now they lost their master. There's nothing controlling them anymore, and so
That's true.
yeah,
That's true. Now they're all just. I just I can't. The absurdity
right.
of the fact that they said it, that they didn't like you would have expected them to just explode into flames,
Hmm.
or something like that. Like the
Yeah,
magic is no longer keeping them alive, so like they have no reason to exist in the earthly world. But
yeah.
no, instead they're just there.
Well, and that's what I'm like. Are they actually immortal? Like because like what is keeping them alive? Do they have to eat? Yeah, is that a thing?
Yeah.
Do they have to eat?
Also, what was the whole thing with like the one feral Santa that they caught being American and his name was Brian Green or something like that?
No,
And they
that
made like a
yeah.
very like I'm still
So
kind of confused about that.
well,
Like if he
that
a
was well that
winter.
that was the passport of one of the workers that he killed. That's what because if you look at the picture in the passport, it does not look like Santa Claus. It looks like one of the workers, and so that's what happens. The Santa stole the worker's jacket, and oh yeah, actually, I'll wait for you to come back.
Sorry, he
Yeah,
was like
so
he was up on the shelf.
that's a,
I had to get him up.
yeah, but the the elf stole the worker's jacket, and the worker's jacket had the passport in it, and
Mm,
that's why he has the passport, and that's why they assumed he was American, even though the picture doesn't even look like him at all. But they're like, well, it's the best thing we got to go off of. I don't know, but
okay, yeah, that makes
yeah,
sense. I was like, that
because
that was.
he wasn't actually American. He
I was
just
like,
stole the
is he one
passport.
of the workers? I started getting zombie theories. I was like, oh my God, did Santa Claus bite him? And like Santa Claus bit him and he became feral or something. I was like,
Right.
this is something different. I was like, oh, zombies, we're all turning into Santas now.
hmm Yeah, well, and where were the elves this whole time? Were the elves inside of the mountain? And when they broke through the mountain, did they release the elves? Like, is that what
That's
is
what I'm thinking.
or were the elves just like hanging around waiting for somebody to get in? I don't know. Or were the elves like just like hanging out in the forest and like that's where they lived this whole time? And then as soon as they broke through, then like the Santa Claus was able to control their minds and bring them back.
That's what I'm thinking that maybe the Santas, what if the Santas were already kind of global?
hmm
Like if they were the feral people living all over the globe,
Yeah.
but then because it's kind of explained in that third part of the film that they emerge when their master is being threatened,
hmm
right? And because they were like bombing the mountain, then like they probably were all over the world and they like sensed that their master encased in ice was being threatened, so they
Yeah.
came and started
hmm
defending him. But also like if their end goal was to thaw him and bring him back to life, why weren't they trying to do that before they started mining?
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. That's I think we need to
So
watch the short films. Those seem to be prequels. So yeah, because I haven't seen those yet. I didn't even know those existed until like just before we started filming this, and I did like a quick Google search, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's more to this movie than
there's
the movie.
more.
And so I don't know if the short films are like an extension of this movie, or if they're kind of standalone things, and this movie's kind of inspired by the short film. It's kind of like Lights Out, where Lights Out is based off of a short film, but it has nothing to do with the short film. Like the short film just
Yeah.
kind of inspired the thing.
Yeah, Cargo did that too. I think it's called Cargo. Or
Yeah.
like it started out with like a really popular short of like a kid that's like turning into his no, it's a kid that is still a human and the dad gets bitten and turns into a zombie and he has to like very selfishly lead his kid through to civilization as he is turning into a zombie.
Mm,
So it's like very harrowing. And I was like, I don't know, it was a really effective short. But then
yeah.
they turned it into a movie with like with like a really famous British actor whose name I can't remember. Oh, Martin Freeman. It's Martin Freeman.
hmm
And yeah, it wasn't as good. Yeah. So the short films are either like really great inspiration or they just expand the story and it turns into something else. But yeah, I kind of want to watch the short films now.
Yeah.
Be like, does this film actually answer the origin
hmm
of this operation?
Right.
Or
Yeah.
is it just like a weird, or is it just like a longer segmented story
hmm
expanding on the shorts? Because
Yeah.
normally, like, what I always want from shorts, short expansions into a movie, what I always want from the movie is like some kind of an origin story
hmm
of where the thing came from, not just another story in the anthology that's just told for 2 hours.
You're right.
Although I'm sure that would be nice too, because this is such a weird, it's just so weird.
Right.
Like this movie is just so strange. You have me watch. Why did you have me watch this movie? Okay, hang
Because
on.
well,
When did you see this?
so
When did you see this movie?
the first time I watched this movie, it was like 3 or 4 years ago, I think, and that was actually the last time I watched it until just recently. But Yeah, I knew about this movie a while ago. I think like back in 2012 or 14. I came across a trailer on YouTube and I was like, ah, that's a interesting movie. And that back then I wasn't really aware of the Christmas horror genre, you know. As I was like,
Hmm.
ooh, like a little twist on Christmas, And now I know that there are other Christmas horror movies and like
It's a major
and
twist on
and,
Christmas.
and like Krampus is a thing. But yeah, I remember I saw it. Where did I think it was on Netflix. It was like it finally popped on the Netflix, and I was like, okay, now I can watch it for free. And so I
Mhm.
just went for it, and yeah, it's really interesting. I was like, wow, I've never seen a Christmas movie like this. And then, but after watching that, then I watched Krampus, and I was like, ah, okay, so there's more to this.
There's more
Obviously,
lore.
yeah. And then
I
after,
thought this was
yeah,
better. I thought this is what Krampus. This is what I hoped Krampus would be.
yeah,
Um, because it doesn't. I hate saying this, but like there is an Americanized. There's an American like Krampus is kind of Americanized because it's filmed through the lens of an American kid who's coming
yeah.
across the German culture. But like in this film, nobody's there explaining it. We're already in the culture.
Mhm.
Like it's already assumed that everybody in the movie knows who Santa Claus is. Everybody knows what the traditions and the customs are. Everyone's like, that's just an old folk legend. Um, so but you still, I mean, you still kind of get a small montage scene where you kind of figure out
Yeah,
who
they
it
give you a
is.
little. It's kind of during the title sequence, I think. They have a little montage of him looking through books, and you see the pictures, and you can see like kind of what the folklore is that he's looking at, that he's referring to. And yeah, I wonder how much of that art, because mostly you just see art from the books. And I wonder how much of the artwork is original for the movie and how much of it is actual like art from like historical art. Like how much is actual from real books and how much they had to draw for specifically for the movie. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they would answer that in the behind the scenes features,
Yeah,
but I'm just like,
because
yeah,
some
like I'm
some of
so
the art is
curious
really
about
cool.
this movie. Yeah.
And even like there's one picture I in particular that I really liked, and I don't know, maybe it's like one of the scarier pictures, but it's of like the actual giant thing, and like between its horns, it has like this string that goes between the horns, and hanging on the strings is like a bunch of corpses. And that gives you like the scale of this giant monster. Like it's so big that like up on top of his head, like these little tiny like corpses, but they're like full grown people. And like as
Yeah,
it's like
oh
walking through the
my God.
forest, and yeah, I was like I don't know. There's something about that picture is like really cool, even though it's like really
Yeah,
freaky
some
at
of
the
those
same
depictions
time.
are genuinely terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, oh my God, just like the mythos
Mhm.
behind the evil side of the Julupuki is just very, I hope I'm saying that correctly. It
Yeah.
could be something else, but I'm pronouncing it the way it looks.
Yeah.
Julu, Julupuki. It's, yeah, the lore behind it is just like it's so terrifying because
Yeah.
there's no commercialism brought into it. Like
Mhm.
there's no capitalistic purpose for it. Like the pure purpose for it is like a moral reason, which is to
Yeah.
get your kids to behave. So like you don't you don't get like the clean cut shiny version of Santa.
Mhm.
Although they say that Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is based off of the Yule goat, so
Hmm.
that could
Okay.
be fun. But still, it didn't start out Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. It started off as something very grounded in reality,
Mhm.
right? And then it just got crazier and crazier, just like the film.
Right.
The myth is also equally as terrifying and weird, but I'm so curious because I didn't know that like people all around the world like celebrated Finnish Christmas, like specifically Finnish Christmas.
Mhm.
Like I don't know, like I did some research and apparently 90 countries celebrate this Finnish version of Christmas because it is said that like the original original versions of Santa Claus were crafted off of the Julupuki. Um, and then like Christianity, it is said that like Christianity technically took their version of Saint Nicholas and blended it with the Julupuki to make what is now current day Santa.
Mm-hmm.
So like it seems like it actually started with Finland,
Mm.
and now like people in 90 different countries celebrate it, primarily Italy and China
Yeah. Interesting.
and Poland,
Hmm.
because the Julupuki gets tons of letters every year. So yeah, it's like their version of Santa Claus.
Hmm.
So now I'm just like fascinated. I'm like I want to go to these countries and like
Right.
ask people about like what is your non-Christian version of Santa Claus?
So I don't know if there's anything else that you want to touch on. I don't know if we.
I mean, I don't know. This film doesn't have, because the film doesn't take itself seriously,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to point out flaws in it
Yeah.
because those can easily be written off as comedy. Like
Right.
with absurdist comedies like this,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to tell what is intentional and
Yeah.
what isn't. But overall, I think we did a good job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like the questions you have at the end of the movie, things like, you know, this, things like where did these elves come from? Where were they this whole time? And what are and where, like, who was buying the elves? Who would buy a human being and like and ship who would ship them across the world in little wooden crates? Like there's all kinds of ridiculous things. You have a lot of questions at the end, but I feel like all those questions kind of add to the intrigue of the whole movie. Like the whole movie is so ridiculous that like you kind of expect to have all these questions left over at the end, and I'm kind of okay with it. I like a sequel. Like I would understand why. Oh,
Okay?
yeah.
He's
So,
doing some parkour now. I have to keep an eye
ah,
on him because he's parkouring a little
oh
bit.
no. Yeah. So
Mm.
I would understand if they were to make a sequel for this movie, but at the same time, I kind of hope they don't, because I
Right?
feel like I feel like the ending I got was satisfactory enough, and I don't think they could make anything that could live up to my expectations right now. I kind of just want to leave it as it is and just kind of make up my own story in my mind and just leave it like that. Yeah. So there we go.
Okay.
All right. So, Michaela, now that we've thoroughly discussed it, it seems like you enjoyed this movie. Is that correct?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But that's also my preference because
Mm-hmm.
I love weird, absurdist humor like that. Also reminded me of the regular show, just a little bit,
Right.
and I love the regular show. Just like absurdist, like absurd situations and people rolling with it.
Mm-hmm.
I give it, because I loved it, I give
Yeah.
it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
9 out of 10 for me.
Right. I think it's good,
What
and
would you
I think I'm pretty close. I really liked it. I don't really have anything. I was actually surprised at how much I liked it because I had watched it once a couple years ago, and I kind of forgot how much I enjoyed it. And so rewatching it, I yeah, I was pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed it. So, and I mean, it's absurd, but also like just like the family drama was just done so well. Like it really, like, it was just the perfect amount. It didn't like overtake the entire story, but like it really made you care about these characters and like where are they going, the relationship between the father and the son, and like how that helps motivate their actions throughout the whole movie. Yeah. All right, Michaela, so I'm glad that you enjoyed Rare Exports, and so yeah. So, Michaela, next week you get to pick the Cinepick. So, what is your Cinepick for next week?
Yes, this is the follow-up sequel film to one of your favorite films, or what was one of your
What?
favorite films, Frozen. This
Ah,
this week's pick for you is Frozen 2,
right.
which in my I think was vastly better in story than Frozen 1,
Mhm.
but lacking in the music department. So we'll see
Ah.
where that goes there. I don't
Yeah.
know.
So I'm excited
I
for that.
wasn't
It was just
shocked.
kind of funny because you say that it was one of my favorite movies, and I think previously in other episodes I have referenced Frozen as a movie that I was completely obsessed about when it first came out.
Mhm.
And so it might confuse people as to why I have not seen Frozen 2. And so maybe I will review that when we review Frozen 2. So you have to, everybody has to
We'll
wait
figure it
until
out.
that video comes out so they can figure out why have I not seen Frozen 2?
Yeah,
What
why
have,
haven't you
right?
Frozen 2?
Yeah, right? And I'm sure you're probably curious as well. So, but you'll have to find out next week. Okay. So that gives everybody something to look forward to. So if you want to find out why have I never seen Frozen 2, then make sure you subscribe to our channel. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications so you know when that video comes out and when any of our other future Cinepix comes out. And make sure you like the video and share it and do all the other stuff that you know you're supposed to do. Alright. And so this has been Kevin and Michaela. And this has been another Cinepic. Goodbye.
Bye!